Welcome back, everybody, to Ein Sof Learning. We've recently finished the series in Talmud Esher Sefirot, and I thought it's time to start a new series. So this time around, we're going to be talking about the subject of Moshiach, or the Messiah in English. And I know that many people around the world, Christians, Muslims, Jews, those from many different types of faiths and backgrounds, are interested in this subject of the Messiah. What is the Messiah? Who is the Messiah? Is there a Messiah? Why does there need to be a Messiah? Really, why did God choose to incorporate this detail or this component into his divine plan? Is it merely a detail, or is it really the essence of Judaism? And the Torah, which we know was received by Moses on Mount Sinai, why is it that it's not mentioned even once in the biblical text? This is a very important question. Why is the concept of the Messiah not even mentioned once in the biblical text? However, it is referenced and alluded to in the books of the prophets and the other writings, which are the portion of Nevi'im and Ketuvim. Because we know in Judaism we have three portions to the Hebrew Bible. Portion number one is the Torah itself, the 5 books of Moses. Then we have the books of prophets, and then we have the books of writings, which include the book of Psalms, the Song of Songs, etc. Now, the series that we're going to be addressing on the topic of Moshiach will be split up into various episodes. And in today's episode, as it's the first episode, I want to talk about the most controversial aspect of this series and really confront it head on before we even begin formally teaching about Moshiach. And that controversial subject is regarding the phrase that God needs you. There is some controversy that's happening right now online in the religious Jewish world between rabbis that really have a conflicting opinion about this phrase. Is it that God needs you, or is it heresy to say that God needs you? And there are a group of rabbis, particularly those from Chabad, as well as some non-Chabad rabbis, which hold the position that God himself, in his essence, needs, not just wants, but needs our active engagement and our active participation in his divine plan in order for his own purpose for which he created the world to be fulfilled. He didn't choose to need. Rather, he intrinsically needs our participation in order to fulfill his will for which he created this world. And then the opposition to this argument hold that it is impossible, and in fact it is heretical, to claim such a thing about the creator of the world. That he should have such a deficiency so as to need anything. The position that they hold is that God is complete, he is perfect, and therefore by definition needs nothing and needs no one. And I can see both angles as a third party watching from the outside. I can see why some rabbis would say that God needs you. And I can also see why there's a problem with saying it as well. My opinion on this subject is that it is a little bit too provocative. The statement that God needs you, although it feels very good to hear those words of comfort and assurance that I am needed by the Creator and that I am not some insignificant element of his world, but rather that my actions and my efforts are not in vain, but rather they are serving a divine purpose, serving a cosmic purpose. And for that reason, I actually am quite attracted to that type of language, that God needs you, because for those that, especially those who have battled despair or depression or feelings of loneliness or not being needed, this directly addresses that insecurity and tells you, no, you are needed. In fact, you are needed by the Creator himself. And so, for that reason, I do admire that phrase. However, in the much thinking that I have done about this phrase, I have also understood the opposition and have seen that people can easily misinterpret that phrase to mean that God lacks something, and that God is imperfect, and that God is missing something, so to speak, and that it was from an act of fulfilling his own lacks that he created the world, so as to have a companion or someone to be there with him, as opposed to it being just him, because before creation, God was, so to speak, alone in the world. He was the only thing or person, you can't call him a person, but you know what I'm trying to say, the only being that existed. And without the creation, it is just him. However, he creates the world in order to enter into a relationship, and therefore give from his goodness and share it with another person, what he was not able to do before the creation, because it was just him. And so he created the world because he wanted to reveal himself. He wanted to be known. He wanted his names and his titles to be acknowledged and known. He wanted to reveal his actions. He wanted to reveal his powers, his kochot, his peulot, his shemot, his kiyunav. And I understand that that's one angle of looking at it. However, we have to understand that that is not because of a lack in God that he creates the world. Rather, it is because of his desire to give, his desire to do good to us, not because there's something in it for him that he lacks. God does not lack anything in and of himself. So the phrase that God needs you, in my concluding estimation, is too provocative and too controversial to be taken, especially at surface value, without any further explanation. However, I have come across in my own mind, God placed it in my mind, a different way of phrasing a similar message, but one that is absolutely based in Torah and Halacha, which is that it may be that God does not need you, but Moshiach needs you. The Messiah needs you. How does that feel? How does that sound? The Messiah needs me. Provocative, controversial at first glance, hard to understand and hard to believe for many. But what if I told you that this is 100% grounded in Torah and Judaism? The belief that the Messiah, yes, he may be the Redeemer, but desperately needs our active involvement in revealing the redemption, bringing the time of the redemption closer and sooner than its appointed time. I think that this is the key to understanding our role in this world, because we do need to feel like we are needed. But it is not enough to just believe that we are needed. We need to know that we are needed. And for that reason, the series that we're going to be making throughout the next few weeks will be directly addressing this message. Not only that you are needed, but by whom? By whom? The Messiah himself. In Judaism, the concept of the Messiah is really at the heart of our faith. Now, there is one very big danger with this message, which is what makes it somewhat provocative or controversial, which is that we have to be careful not to overemphasize the role of the Messiah above God. Because the position of the Messiah must be understood in the context that he is a servant of God. He is somebody who believes and fears God, and is not to be equated, God forbid, or confused or replaced for the concept of God. And this is a very important, message to just kind of add into this, that we must be diligent and careful not to overemphasize the role of the Messiah above God, or, God forbid, confuse their roles, as is common in other religions, most famously Christianity and Catholicism and evangelicals are a type of Christian, but there's many different types of religions or variations or cults or sects that exist in the world that have misappropriated the concept of the Messiah, which really originates from Judaism. The concept of the Messiah is not pulled from any other text than that of the actual Hebrew Bible. We said it's not in the biblical text, but it is mentioned everywhere in the Nevi'im and Ketuvim, the prophets and other writings, which are essentially Hebrew texts and Jewish books. And from there, they have made their way into different religions. Islam also has their own version of the concept of the Messiah. Now, we're going to be tackling this from a Jewish Orthodox perspective for those who are interested in knowing the details that are involved in the unfolding of the Messianic era. Who the Messiah is from a personality point of view. We are going to be going and tackling all of these hard and pressing questions which everybody has at the bottom of their heart, because at the end of the day, we all want to believe in something. But it's not enough to believe. We need to know, and we need to have clarity regarding this subject. And for that, we're going to bring the Chazal, the Chachamim of Judaism, the wise sages, may their memories be blessed, to enlighten us in this subject. So now, as we are about to close this opening introductory episode to this series, I want to conclude with this sentence I want to read for you. Your teshuvah does not fix you. It adds a brick to the Beit HaMikdash. It builds the body of Moshiach. Your healing is His healing. And that's a very, very important concept here, that we are actually participating in the construction of the body of the Messiah. That's why our sages say that we are at the heels of the Messianic era. What does that mean, that we are at the heels of the Messianic era? Why are you using a human body part to contextualize the redemption, the moments before the redemption? And the answer is because the entire creation is described as being in the image of the 10 Sefirot. The 10 Sefirot are the prototype. They are the map of the cosmos, which is included within the human experience. The human experience is a microcosm of the universe. That's why if you look at this map, you'll see that it is actually in the shape of a human body, with a head and a torso and even feet. And the sages explain that we are right now in the end of days, in the heels of the Messianic era, meaning that we are at the bottom of the pit. We are at the last moments before the redemption, located at the bottom of the tree of life. And we are moments, literally moments away from the revelation of the Messiah, whom we have been waiting for 5,785 years, ever since Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge. That's how long we've been waiting for the arrival of the Messiah, since the very moment we entered into exile. And the Messiah is for all people, but we are playing an active role in bringing this era a little bit closer and a little bit easier as well. We're located at the bottom of the body of the Messiah. We're fixing the bottom. That means that we are almost done. Most of the work has already been done by the wise ones of Israel. Those like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Aaron, Joseph, King David, etc. These biblical figures were great not because they were wealthy or influential. There were many influential people. Yes, they were the most influential, but that's not what makes them great. What makes them great is that they have sacrificed their lives for this project of rectifying the world. They have spent their days fixing the Sefirot, the dimensions, the spiritual worlds that needed fixing ever since Adam made the sin. Ever since Adam made the sin, the world was in need of rectification. And those that came after Adam and Eve spent their days, some of them spent their days adding onto the corruption, adding onto the evil that Adam and Eve brought into the world. But others, like the sages and the holy ones, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, etc., all the way to Moses and to the Jewish people today, those who have a solid connection to their Creator, to the Torah, through the Torah, to the Creator, they are leading this mission. They are at the forefront. They are the righteous among Israel who are leading the final expedition, the final, what would you call, the final moments before the Messiah. So we want to follow in the footsteps of the sages, which means attach ourselves as closely as we can to the wisdom of the Torah. I appreciate everybody joining me, and I can't wait for this series. I think it will be very exciting for me and for the audience to learn about this magnificent subject, which is really the essence of Judaism. And yeah, stick around and I'll see you in the next class.